Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. It is beautiful Nashville, Tennessee. I am wildly jealous that I will not be there for the SEC tournament. I think in 2026, I got to get there. Best conference in college basketball, 13, maybe 14 bids coming out of that league. So let's start with the SEC. First of all, producer Matt, if you could give us the odds via the BetUS Sportsbook in the SEC, here are the top 5. Now, to be clear, for all of these conferences, we have odds on everybody. So if you're a Georgia fan, a Texas fan, whatever you want to bet on your team, odds are all available at the BetUS Sportsbook. But Auburn is the favorite at plus 150, Florida at plus 300, Alabama at plus 400, Tennessee at plus 550, Kentucky at plus 2,500. Big story in this one. So what is the big story coming in? Listen, I think it's the SEC's pursuit of a record-setting number of NCAA tournament bids. Now, I believe they have largely already clinched at least a record-setting amount of 12. In my opinion, basically, so first of all, to even backtrack, I think everybody knows record for most NCAA tournament bids. It was the Big East with 11 back in 2011. UConn won the national championship that year. No big deal. Kemba Walker. But I bring it up because the SEC all year long, it has been a conversation. Are they going to get more than 11? I think at this point, it is set in stone. They are getting more than 11. I think the question is, does it become 13? Does it become even 14? I guess in theory, you could get a 15th if LSU or South Carolina were to win the conference tournament. I don't expect that to happen. But let's go ahead and dive in, because I think, to me, the big story is, can you get more than 11? You're going to, but just how many it is. Let's start with the bubble. First of all, bubble-wise, we've talked about this so many times. I don't need to keep going over it. I believe there are 3 teams that some people would tell you are pseudo-bubble teams that I believe have essentially already clinched an NCAA tournament spot. I believe that Arkansas over the weekend, listen, I believe they clinched a tournament spot. I just do. I know there's some pushback in the national media. And listen, I guess in theory, if we had a million bid stealers, if, Georgia Tech wins the ACC and USC wins the Big Ten and the Big 12 goes to Colorado and we get a bunch of bid stealers, okay, I get it. But at the same time, we've talked about Arkansas, 6 quad 1 wins right now. That's really as good as any team that you would even consider to be on the bubble. So I think they're in. Vandy, despite losing their last 2 games, I don't believe they are a bubble team. They themselves have 5 quad 1 wins. And then, I got to give credit where it's due. Sorry, I got a little itch in my nose here. I got to give credit where it's due. Georgia Bulldogs, we keep calling him. He went from mediocre Mike White to Mike White Krzyzewski, because this guy cannot lose games. Georgia has won 4 in a row, 20 wins overall. I don't really see the scenario that they're not in. And so to me, the only bubble conversation that really pops up is with Oklahoma and Texas. Oklahoma, to its credit, by the way, I think has largely worked itself off the bubble as well. When you look at that team, and you can see the bracket here, we'll be popping up these brackets all show long. But Oklahoma coming into this week, first of all, to their credit, they have won their last 2. They beat Missouri in their second to last game. They win at Texas to close the regular season. You look at Oklahoma, they are a team, and we've discussed them, but I think it is worth just reiterating. 18-13 overall, 2 straight wins, 6 quad 1 wins, no different than Arkansas. And I think even to a degree, unlike Arkansas, they are a team that has some really good out-of-conference wins. Louisville on a neutral, Arizona on a neutral. They beat Michigan on a neutral. Those are 3 great wins. So to me, I think Oklahoma is probably on the right side. I do think they probably need to just win 1 game to feel really good. If they do win that 1 game, it is Georgia. I believe they are in. Even if they lose, I think they'll probably in the last 4 in at the very least, maybe going to Dayton. By the way, Oklahoma, of course, was the first 4 out last year when they were in the Big 12. Really quickly, Texas, listen, Texas is the only one that I think is on the outside looking in, okay? Sitting at 17-14 overall. They have a lot of quad 1 games. But listen, I just think it's hard to imagine that you're 17-14 overall and that you're going to get in, 1, with a loss here. Two, I think you probably need 2 wins. I don't know that beating Vandy in the opening round is quite enough. So Texas, in my opinion, would need to beat Vanderbilt, probably beat Texas A&M to get to semifinal Saturday, where I guess it would even just be the quarter. They would need 2 wins just to get to the quarters. So I think Texas needs 2 wins. So I've gone on long enough about the bubble. Let's get to the team that I deem the dark horse. Okay, so I don't know that you could call anybody in this league a true like can you call them a dark horse if they're an NCAA tournament team? I don't know. But I'll also say I think it's hard to really think of anybody as a dark horse because you're going to need to beat so many good teams to make a real run here, right? Arkansas, if they survive South Carolina, they got to beat Ole Miss, then they play Auburn. It's like, so is Auburn real, or is Arkansas realistically a dark horse, even though they're playing well? Georgia's playing really well. But even if you beat Oklahoma on Wednesday, you then got to play Kentucky, you then got to play Alabama. So to me, I think the closest thing to a dark horse that this tournament has is actually the Kentucky Wildcats. Plus 2,500 in the Bet US odds. They, of course, don't play until Thursday, where they will play the winner of Georgia, Oklahoma. And then on top of that, I'll say this. The draw isn't great, but no draw is great. The one thing that I would counter with, though, if you beat Georgia or Oklahoma, you would then face an Alabama team that you've already played twice. You've lost to twice. But listen, I think there's something about beating a team for a third time. Then maybe you get a Florida, whatever. And the other thing, too, with Kentucky, it goes without saying, like, they're going to have the home court advantage in Nashville. We know it's called Catsville for a reason. And so to me, I could, listen, we're calling them a dark horse for a reason. I could see the scenario where Kentucky is the last team standing on Saturday. If they do, it would be just an incredible cap to an incredible first season for Mark Pope. Finally, let's just get to the pick for this SEC tournament. To me, in terms of who I actually like to win this SEC tournament, let's just be real. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be insane for all of you that are going to be there. I am very jealous. I'll probably take, this is going to be a little bit surprising, I think I like the Florida Gators to win the SEC tournament. Let me explain why. First of all, top half of the bracket. Am I a little worried about Auburn? Yes, we discussed them on Sunday's show. But at the end of the day, I think the draw actually breaks very nicely for them. They don't play again until Friday. They get to rest until then. They get to discipline Chad Baker-Mazara however they deem fit. But even in the first game, they're either going to be playing an Ole Miss team that, frankly, I just think they match up well with. They've already beaten them twice, beat them 30 a few weeks ago. And then you'd be potentially playing an Arkansas team that would be playing a third game in 3 days. Just think that's a tough draw for Arkansas. So I think Auburn advances. Maybe they play Tennessee, whatever. But the bottom half of the bracket, I just think Florida is a bad matchup for Alabama. They have the size to match them, the physicality to match them. You know, Nate Oates talked about it after Alabama beat Auburn, how badly Florida beat them on the boards. And so I just think it's a bad matchup for Alabama. I have Florida advancing out of that part of the bracket. They would play Missouri likely in the first game. Missouri is not playing well. And then I'll take, how about this? The reverse of last year. Sunday, it was Florida losing to Auburn in the championship game. This year, I like Florida beating Auburn in the championship game. And I think what that would say, point blank, end of story, is that if Florida wins that game, if they win the SEC tournament, beating Missouri, Alabama, and Auburn potentially in the SEC tournament, I don't see how they don't get that fourth number 1 seed. I said it on Sunday's show. I think there's a possibility the winner, if they play, of Alabama and Florida would get the final number 1 seed.